Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to have you on our call. I am coming at you live from my house. I'm working from home today, so you'll see a little bit of a cluttered background, like my painting, by the way. For those of you who are new to our webinars, my name is Mary Lee, and I'm the content manager in the mortgages team here at Zillow Group. Along with me today, I have Stephanie, and she'll go ahead and introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephanie. I'm on the customer support team. And so basically what our team is designed to do is to assist all the lenders on our site with any questions they might have about reviews, their profiles, and basically just guiding them to the correct person in case we don't know how to answer the questions that you might have, if that includes advertising or any of the platforms that we have. Our team is kind of like your first touch point.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here today. You guys are an amazing resource. At least I know I utilize you guys all the time whenever I get an email and I'm like, I don't know how to do that, or I don't have access to that. So I'll forward an email over to you guys, and you guys are really quick to respond. So I appreciate that. We have a lot of new people who registered for this webinar, and so I wanted to take a moment to kind of give an idea of what this webinar is about and why we do this series. We often get a lot of questions that come in from lenders who, a lot of times they're frequently asked questions that we feel like we can just come on live and talk to you guys about in one spot versus having to go through each email and copy pasting the same responses. And it's nice to be able to ask your questions live. So that's what this webinar is all about, is being able to connect with us and being able to have a live space. That being said, in your toolbar, you should have a floating toolbar on your screen. There is a Q&A section where you can pop in your questions, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the session. And we'll push the questions towards the end of the webinar just to make sure we have time to cover our topic points. I do see that there are some chats coming in. Let me quickly address that really quickly. So I'm getting feedback that I'm really hard to hear. Is this any better? I just moved my computer up a little bit closer. All right, well, today, as you saw in the email invitation that you received, we're going to talk a bit about how to make your profile stand out and how to avoid those pitfalls that make it so that your profile isn't seen by potential borrowers. So I'll hand it over to Stephanie to kick that off, and we'll just have a nice discussion about that today.
Yes, thank you, Mary. Yeah, like Mary mentioned, our team often gets a lot of emails from lenders if their sites are not found on search engines. So we wanted to just do a webinar to inform all the lenders really the procedure and what helps you with having your profile, your Zillow profile, show up on any search engine. So we wanted to kind of address why this happens to begin with. So we get a lot of questions as to, hey, my profile used to show up when I used to, go on Bing or Yahoo or Google, and it's not showing up anymore. And so there are a couple different reasons why that might happen. Typically, the main reason that this happens to our lenders is if our lenders created duplicate accounts and ended up disabling previous or their established account and just creating a new account from scratch. This happens because Google or the search engine will pick up our URL from Zillow, and then if we disable that account and move over your NMLS number to another profile, that URL changes. And so Google doesn't pick it up anymore, Yahoo doesn't pick it up anymore, Bing they just don't get it. So we really want to talk about the procedure if that happens to you. If you see that happen, what are the next steps, and really how to avoid that in general. And so we want to avoid creating duplicate profiles because it does have a big effect on you populating in any search engine. And so if we create duplicate accounts, the search engines are going to see that they're duplicate and then really just combine them or not show them up at all. So able to, if you happen to change employers, which is probably the #1 reason that people create two profiles, that we are here to assist you in combining or just changing the email address. We get a lot of people that are saying, hey, I changed employer, I don't have access to that email address anymore, and I don't remember my password, but I created a new profile. And so that's kind of what we want to avoid. You can always reach out to us, email us at mortgagesupport@zillow.com and say, this is my profile, this is my NMLS number, I want to change the email address associated with this account to X. And so this will really assist us in making sure that the search engines are still picking up your profile, you have access to your profile, so you're able to log back in and change your employer and change maybe the office location, anything, you know, URLs, website URLs that you might have on the profile. But basically kind of wanted to explain what our team does when we can't find an account no longer on like the search engines. So our team, our SEO team, really submits the site maps to the search engines, and then the search engines crawls the page, index the page, and then they show up when you search. But we want to clarify that just because the page is indexed in the search engines doesn't mean that it's going to come up first. But really just show you the process that after we do the site maps, we're really at the mercy of all the search engines. There's really nothing else that our team can do because the search engines handle the indexing and the crawling of the page. So we want to make sure that if you are already searching, if you're already showing up on a search engine, that we keep it that way. And if you want to change anything on your profile, that you still have access to do that. But really, we want to clarify that it is very important for lenders to have a Zillow profile, because if you do happen to change employers, most of the time the employers will cancel out employee site websites, so you won't have access to that page anyways, versus your Zillow profile being with you if you do happen to change employers.
So I think, sorry to cut you off here.
No, go ahead.
I think what you mentioned there is really, really good advice, because oftentimes people do create a duplicate profile assuming that, you know, if they moved employers that they have to do that because of that. Let's say they're with Wells Fargo and they have an individual website and they're no longer with Wells. Wells takes down their personal website and they assume their Zillow profile's linked to that, and it's not. I feel like you guys have probably gotten so many emails from our lenders saying, hey, I can't log in, and you go and find duplicate profiles. We do have the NMLS integration, which helps, I think, to prevent duplicate lender profiles, but I think it must be noted that you could also have another type of profile. And let's say if you accidentally set it up as like an agent profile versus a lender profile, so that could also hurt you. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing that specifically, or if you have any examples to share on how that is still happening.
Yeah, no, Mary, that's with the NMLS integration, that's kind of why we decided to do that. So if you start with a new company and you attempt to create a new profile, it will ask you for your NMLS. And most of the time you will get, if you have a duplicate profile, it will say, this NMLS is already in use. And that's how typically lenders find out that they have another profile. And so that's kind of why we built that in, so lenders can see that, hey, I think I have another profile. Maybe there's no need to create this one, because then we can just change the email address on the old one that is established. And so typically, I mean, just keeping the established profile just helps in general. If we move everything over to a new profile, typically reviews take a little while to accumulate. Our system will still need about 72 hours to pull that information from the NMLS site, which will be the employer names, the states that they are currently in, and really all the information that is pulled from the website, which is the NMLS information. So we just want lenders to know that I think Zillow, because we are such a reputable company, and consumers really trust our brand, especially when it comes to reviews. We do reject about 10% of reviews, and so and that's all for authenticity reasons. And so we're really big on making sure that these reviews are authentic, and that our consumers really can come to our Zillow website and find that the reviews are being left by real people, and these are real experiences. And so I think that helps us a lot. especially when you, maybe you are moving between companies, you always have that personal brand that you have built with Zillow that will stay there and you can manage it yourself. And so that's really helpful for our lenders as well. But some of the best practices that we suggest for our lenders is for your Zillow profile, instead of using a business email, maybe use a personal email address. And so this really helps out because if you don't have access to your business one, which if you leave a company, typically you don't have access to that anymore, versus a personal one, which you always have access to. So all you have to do is use that email, log in, and maybe just change the employer information, the about section on where you're working and things like that on your own profile, and you will always have access to it. But yeah, really, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, on that note, I was going to say that sometimes different companies have different policies on that, especially if you're advertising on Zillow. I know that some of our accounts that we work with and some of the bigger mortgage companies have some requirements on being able to access those accounts. So I would double check with your compliance team and or your marketing team if they handle all of your lead generation and your advertising, just to make sure you don't lock them out and you kind of shoot yourself in the foot with your advertising. So we don't want that to happen because they need to be able to log into your account to update your credit card information if they're the ones who pay for that. Just to add that little tidbit there.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you are advertising with an agent in a previous account, maybe you're not advertising with them anymore, but you need to go back for your receipts. And so creating a new profile, you don't have access to that anymore. So we really try on our end to keep the established account, just because you can always go back, look at the receipts if you want to advertise or you are advertising. We want to make sure that they stay there. And you always can go back and see the history of all the contacts and the leads that you've received through Zillow. But some of the best practices that we suggest is really building out your profile. I think a lot of lenders, when they change companies or they change employers, they don't realize that because we are integrated with the NMLS site, as soon as that employer is no longer sponsoring you, we do pull their name from your site, from your Zillow profile page, and then that automatically triggers our system for your profile to be incomplete. And so once that profile hits incomplete, it is no longer searchable on our site. So we want to make sure that if you have that professional or that personal email address on your Zillow profile, you can log in and correct the new employer that you're in that you are sponsored with. So it is searchable on our site, because a lot of times when lenders switch employers, they don't realize that their account has gone into incomplete mode, which is not searchable on our site. So really making sure that your profile is complete, it's filled out, that the information on your Zillow profile is different. If you happen to have a personal website that you use and it is very similar or identical to your Zillow profile, some search engines will pick that up and say this is a duplicate and will just post one and not the other, which limits you and the people that you're trying to reach. So really diversifying your Zillow page by the content that you put, your about section, the reviews that you receive, and really getting a lot of reviews, and submitting requests to receive more reviews that assists with, again, the search engines picking up how often people are going to your website or your page. And then building unique content. If you want more information on really how to utilize the best of your Zillow profile, we do have a lot of resources that Mary handles and that we put together as far as webinars go, articles go. We have our lender resource center that everybody can go to and really learn more about our advertising platform, how to build out your profile better, how to make that unique, how to engage your borrowers. So I suggest everybody go to the Lender Resource Center and really to gain more information on that.
And I just posted the link into the chat, so you can click on that and it'll take you straight there.
Right, and there's a lot of great resources, especially because it is so important to be getting reviews, and how do you reply to negative reviews. And we have all that information on our Lender Resource Center. So it is just a good place to go to get a little bit. If you're new to Zillow, it will tell you, how to build out your profile, what our advertising platforms are, how do you start with getting reviews, how do our reviews work, how does our moderation team work. All that information can be found on our Lender Resource Center. And we're trying to diversify the content and add more content and more information as we are changing and as the industry is changing as well.
Absolutely. That's my focus in 2019 is of course to provide all that new content. Some of the big questions that we're seeing a lot from our advertising lenders is how they're going to build a sustainable business in 2019. I mean, there's so many people they work with our team of business consultants, and I feel like some of the big questions our business consultants are getting is, how am I going to stay afloat in 2019 when my refi business dried up? I don't have a lot of people in my pipeline, and I know I'm going to have to focus on purchase, and there's not a lot of inventory, or it's harder for buyers to get out there and be competitive when rates are slowly going up, and now people can't afford that mortgage that they would have been able to afford maybe 6-7 months ago. So I feel like, that's a big concern. So we're going to try to address that in a lot of the content we're providing in our Lender Resource Center and in our webinars, of course. So we do have some questions popping into our chats. Since we already kind of opened that can of worms with reviews, I think this might be a great opportunity to answer a couple of those questions, so we can tie that up. So Chris is asking about there being a time limit on how long ago a transaction was that will allow for a review to show up. So I don't believe we have any restrictions on that, do we?
No, we don't have any time limits. And I mean, we understand that there are some lenders that are just getting into Zillow and are starting Zillow, but have been lenders for a really long time. There is no time limit. You can send your link in an email to past borrowers that you have had and asking for their experience. There isn't any limit on, if you help them in, 1990, 1999, we get a lot of those reviews that he helped me back buy my first home. I mean, it's very important information to have because it kind of shows the experience of the lender, like they've been doing this for a long time. So I would suggest if you do have past clients and they are still willing to leave you a review, they're more than welcome to do so.
I think that's from a consumer standpoint. If I looked at a review and saw that person had been a customer of yours since 1995 or whatever, I would say that speaks volumes.
Right. And most of the time, they do talk about, he helped me with my first home, and then they helped me with 2 or 3 refis, or they've helped me buy my 2-3 homes. And so they can leave that information as well. There isn't a time limit as to how long ago the purchase had to happen.
And that said, they can also edit those reviews. So if they do another transaction, then they can go in and update that particular review if they wanted.
Right. Correct, Mary.
Perfect. Let's see. So there is another, I would say, comment about the anonymity that we give our consumers when they leave that review, and that it doesn't identify the consumers. And I guess there's a concern there in wanting to know that information.
Yes. So when our consumers come onto our site and want to leave a review, we give them full access to use the username that they want to use, just basically to protect their privacy and to really protect them. And sometimes they're leaving reviews that maybe they don't want to be linked to. Sometimes they live in a small town where, they did have a terrible transaction with the lender and they want people to know, but they don't want people to know that they wrote it themselves. So we give full access to our borrowers to use whatever username they would like. And we don't show their email address. We don't show any information that from the borrower, and that's just basically to protect the borrower from any backlash or retaliation that might occur. So some borrowers do go in and they do list their first and their last name. Some decide to just go with a generic username. Some do decide to say anonymous or buyer in, Florida or something like that. But that's really just to protect the buyer.
Yeah, we won't disclose that. Even I see an additional comment only on the lender dashboard, and to kind of touch base on what Stephanie was just saying, it's to protect the buyer because, we hope that all of you would be amazing customer-oriented folks, but unfortunately we've had some lenders who just don't operate that way, and we can't guarantee that the consumer will have a great experience without keeping them anonymous. And if we tell them that it's anonymous, then we want to follow through with that being anonymous.
Right, correct.
So there's some other questions coming in about social survey and being able to import reviews from that platform.
Yes, good question. That has been a question that we've received multiple times. I think with social survey becoming a bigger and bigger brand, unfortunately, we don't partner with any third-party review servicer or tool. So there is no way to import reviews from social survey into Zillow as of right now. And so I want to clarify that we don't have a process. And we really want, because authenticity is so important to us, we want to know that they're coming on our site, they're meeting the authenticity guidelines that we have, and making sure that they're coming on our site and leaving those reviews on our site. So we don't currently partner with any third-party review tool. That's not to say that it can't change in the future or will change in the future, but as of right now, we don't allow any input.
So we have a couple of questions for the personal profiles not coming up. So Bradley, for example, I see your questions here. Can you email mortgagesupport@zillow.com and we can take a look at that for you on a one-on-one and see what's going on with your account. That way you get that dedicated response because we aren't able to pull up your account and look that up right now. Let's see. And yes, I see another question asking about this being recorded. I apologize for not mentioning this at the beginning. This webinar is recorded, and we'll have a recording of this sent out. We've been talking about the Lender Resource Center quite a bit as well, so I'm going to be posting an article talking a little bit about what we've discussed today on SEO and making sure that you don't hit those pitfalls, like having duplicate profiles and things like that. So we'll have that resource published with the recording of this webinar attached to it. So we'll send that out to everyone in an email. So keep an eye out for that.
Really quick, Courtney, I do see your question about your NMLS and your DBA and the two different brand names. So this one is a little bit more complex, and if you have any questions, please email mortgagesupport@zillow.com and I can answer those for you. But typically what happens is our system is very, very accurate into what it picks up from the NMLS site. So if you have an NMLS number and you have 3 or 4 DBAs, you can create a Zillow web, like a profile page for each one of the DBAs that is listed under that NMLS number. The thing gets tricky with the states. So if you don't have that DBA specifically registered in every single state you want it to, the states will not populate on the actual profile. If you have lenders that identify with DBA 1 and not DBA 2, when they go and create their own Zillow profile, they want to make sure that they're selecting the correct DBA, because then that DBA will show up on their profile, and the reviews that are posted in the lender's profiles will also get posted on DBA 1's profile. And sometimes we get a lot of it, and our system is very, very specific, because if you have, Loans 101 and then you have Loans 101 LLC, our system will separate the two. So if you have in Texas Loans 101 registered, and Loans 101 LLC in Maine, it will just pick those 2 states. So you want to be very sure that the NMLS that you, or the DBA that you want on all those states, is the same one across the board. It gets a little bit complicated and very specific. So if you have any questions, please email us at mortgagesupport@zillow.com, and I can answer that via phone or email if you would like. But it gets very complicated with the NMLS integration that we have. But if you want to create a single Zillow profile for all DBAs, you're more than welcome to do that, and we do allow that.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds really complex to me, but that's why we're here, right? That's why the mortgage support team exists, and they have a lot of tools on the back end that can pull up and kind of do some investigations as to why some things aren't working. I get people who reach out to me and say, "Hey, Mary, why isn't this lender showing up on our profile?" And this will be someone in marketing from a bigger mortgage company, and one of their LOs reaches out to them and says, "Hey, my profile's not showing reviews, or something's not working correctly." And they email me, and I'm like, "I don't know, mortgage support, help me." And it's quick.
We really pride ourselves on getting to lenders quickly, just because we know, this is your livelihood. This matters. And so we want to be able to support you if you have any questions, whether that is on anything NMLS related or reviews. If you happen to go on your profile and it says it's incomplete, but you think it's complete and there isn't any information missing, please always feel free to email us directly. We're more than happy to guide you to the correct person if we aren't that team, or talk to you on the phone if you're more comfortable doing that as well, or via email. So always feel free to email us about any question. We are your lender support go-to people. So
there's a couple other questions here. One of them is about having reviews from like agents and other professionals. I think that would be an important one to touch on today.
Right, yes. So this one gets a little tricky as well. So we do allow reviews from professionals if it is a personal transaction. We don't allow any other real estate professionals, or maybe like a title company or like an attorney, to leave a review if it's not a personal transaction. And that just, if our borrowers are coming to your page, they want to see the experience and the reviews from other borrowers just like that. That gets a little tricky, because if you are partnering with a agent and you guys have like a co-marketing partnership and you're doing that advertising platform, that could get a little biased, and so we want to make sure that we have the reviews from people that have been through the mortgage process with the lender. So real estate agents and any type of professional can leave a review for you if they have had a personal transaction. But if they have not, we won't allow it. We really want people who have had a mortgage transaction to leave a review and be able to do that. But in the other way, it also goes, with people's, when someone might leave a review and say, "Hey, this loan officer was rude to me at the grocery store." Again, not a mortgage experience. We're not going to allow that on there. So it has to be just specific to the mortgage experience and the mortgage process, but professionals can leave reviews.
So Rick came back and says he wants to leave a review for the agent, not the other way around. I don't think I think the agent side has very similar rules, but it's a little bit different on their end, right?
Yes, it's a little bit different on their end. They have a different set of guidelines. I would encourage you to look into the guidelines. They list all that information out, just like we do in our specific guidelines. But yeah, I don't want to give out incorrect information. I'm not too familiar with the agent side of reviews.
All right, we have time for one more question as we're nearing the end here. So there was a question about intro videos or adding videos to their profiles. I think that's a great question.
That is a great question, yes. So we currently don't allow our lenders to have any like videos on their profile. Again, it's not to say that we might not in the future, it's just we currently don't have that feature for our lenders. It is something that we have been asked about, and it's something that is being talked about. We just right now currently aren't looking into that.
That said, you could probably, if you have like a YouTube channel or something, you could put that in your About Me. Unfortunately, it won't be a hyperlink, but it might be an option if you have a lot of great video content. And then when people do reach out to you, you can put that in your email signature. That way people are aware that you have that additional presence online. Because I use YouTube all the time. In fact, our webinar recordings are hosted on YouTube because I feel like that's a really great platform to get in touch with people. So that might be some options or workarounds in the meantime. But we're always happy to push feedback to our product team and ask them for different resources and things. So if you have ideas like that or suggestions, please do send them to the mortgage support team, or you can even email me on the webinars team if you have questions or suggestions for topics or resources for our resource center. And I'm happy to make sure we get some of that out there for you guys. So we are at time. We really appreciate you coming and asking your questions and, spending the last 30 minutes with us. We hope you have an awesome day. Next time we'll see you will be in January. So hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.